After my last video about the case of Emma DuPont, Sue Grace contacted me about her brother's disappearance. She gave me the following details about the case. Her brother, Dave Grace, age 83, had failed to return calls or emails for days, which was very unusual. And after 3 days, from the day when the communication ended, the police were contacted to do a wellness check. There was no answer at the door of the apartment, and with no cause to worry, the police moved on, suggesting that he may have gone away without telling her. After a week, Sue was nearly hysterical. Something felt wrong. Her brother was very socially awkward, had strong anxieties, and didn't venture beyond his front door if he didn't absolutely have to. Despite this, they were in contact nearly every day. Her family told her not to worry, as Dave was probably just absorbed in some new computer game or on some new conspiracy that had to be proven true. She asked the property manager if he could let her in to check on him. He said that she would need to get the police involved before he could do so. At her wit's end, Sue phoned the police and filed a missing persons report. The police once more went to the apartment, and with no answer at the door, and the door being locked, the property manager used his spare set of keys to let the police into the apartment. What the police and Sue came across was frightening and beyond strange. The large living room window was broken, and evidence suggested that it was broken from the outside in. What made that bit of information even more crazy was that Dave's apartment was on the 7th floor. The police said that it was most likely a bird strike and the bird flew away after. The problem with this, as she said, was that her brother didn't like the sun and used window tinting laminate on the already sturdy tempered glass, making it even stronger. In her opinion, it would have had to have been, quote, a fucking turkey fired from a cannon, end quote, to break the glass. Sue sent me photos of the apartment taken that day. There were hundreds of pictures everywhere. The walls were covered in pictures, the floor had a layer of pictures, and Dave's desk was full of pictures as well. The striking peculiarity was that all of the pictures were the same. Well, almost the same. The pictures was of a naked man cowering in a forest, but the eyes were different in every picture. Some of the eyes were drawn in, some were cut out and pasted from magazines littering the floor of the apartment. While the police were compiling their report, Sue was able to have a quick look at a computer in Dave's room. There were exactly 96 pictures on the desktop. Pictures 1 through 95 were all the same as the pictures strewn across the apartment. The same man or woman hunched over, with eyes having been digitally added to the pictures. File number 96 was corrupted, but was probably just the same as the rest. The police entered the computer into evidence to be analyzed at a later date. It has been nearly a month since Dave's disappearance, and the police have no answers for Sue yet. She is now following other channels to try and solve the disappearance. The only trail that she had to go on was the photos that she had taken with her phone at the scene that day. The apartment had been quickly cleared out and the damage to the wall and the window fixed. In this area of Denver, property was scarce and in high demand. The police had combed the apartment for clues, and none showed up. One of the officers who was involved in the processing of the evidence, in particular the computer, went missing, along with some of the evidence. This only added to the difficulties of the case, and was another unanswered question. Another rabbit hole opened wide open. A reverse search of the picture brought up a semi-meme internet challenge that had been doing the rounds for a couple of years. The image is of a naked man, but there are no eyes in the picture. The text reads, "Eyes are the windows to the soul. The right ones will lead you to nirvana. The wrong ones will lead you to hell." Sounds like nonsense. What nirvana? Did they mean death? I came across a conspiracy forum on which there was some more information, although whether the information is true or not, I cannot determine. It's a place to start, at the very least. On the 6th of September 2006, a photo was leaked onto the internet. The origin of the photo is unknown, despite a crazy team of conspiracy theorists doing their best to track where the photo came from. Many theorize that it was deliberately leaked by a government official, but for what purpose, I had no answer. The photo had the eyes removed. Due to the nature of the photograph, the police were contacted. However, the police did not pay much attention to the information beyond trying to find the origin. With no further leads, the case went cold. Some new conspiracy theory caught the attention of the internet, and it moved on. One report from a policeman on the team who carried out the investigation states that the person in the photo, although showing malnourishment and emaciation, did not show any other concerning elements. According to the officer, it is possible that the person simply suffered from an eating disorder, and due to lack of injuries, there is no reason for the police to be involved. The eyes being removed from the photo probably meant that the person in the photo did not want to be identified. Japanese police and newspapers often use a black block over the eyes to keep a person's identity anonymous. The earliest copy of the meme uploaded to the internet was in January 2013. It appears that the origin of the meme was on 4chan, and that the person who first uploaded the meme was 6stuff432. There is no information about the person, and it appears the person is no longer on 4chan or the internet. There is no way of finding the original poster. The conspiracy theorists have a theory. Surprising, I know. They believe that if you draw in the eyes correctly, the government will come and take you away. Apparently. A handful of persons on 4chan who had attempted to find the eyes had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, much like Dave. Their belongings appeared untouched, and wallets and handbags were still in the location of the missing persons. Every time someone went missing, the crime scene did not make sense. As in the case of Dave, a large window and a portion of the wall to the right of the window was missing. The manner in which the hole had been made appeared to be a crazy amount of force. The only way that the hole in Dave's apartment on the 7th floor could have been made was with a wrecking ball or something similar. There is no logical explanation. Unfortunately, there was no wrecking balls in the area, so that is a dead end, but surely the force used to make the entry point would have affected the people around Dave's apartment. How was it possible that no witnesses saw or felt the damage? Granted that the apartments on all sides of Dave's apartment were empty at the time of the welfare check. The property manager, Peter, of the apartment block said that the circumstances in which the apartments were emptied was strange. He didn't see the actual tenants during the move. There had been a moving company employed to empty all apartments on the same day. Strange, but probably just a coincidence. No one would want to live in an apartment block that had been damaged due to massive forces and loud noises. During my research of the area of the disappearance, I came across a newspaper clipping. Ulla van Dingen had laid a complaint to the police of a naked man in the area in which the apartment block stood. Had Dave had a mental breakdown overnight? Perhaps he had lost his mind and ran away with not a stitch of clothing on his body. That would have been in line with what the apartment filled with pictures. He had obviously become obsessed with the meme. Through a bit of detective work, I was able to get in contact with the chief editor of the newspaper that ran the story of the naked man running past Ulla van Dingen. The telephone call had a strange clicking to it, which reminded me of the olden day detective stories where the phones had been tapped. Or perhaps there was just a line that was faulty. He was able to provide me with some information about the article. Ulla was quite old and frail, so there had been some parts of the story left out, as they made her sound like a nut job. According to her, the man, or possibly even a woman, had run past her on the streets at crazy speed. The person was taller than the door frames it ran past, so, at a guess, taller than 2 meters. The most distinct attribute was that the person's arms were alarmingly long, almost reaching the ground as it ran. Assuming that she was telling the truth, This shoots down the theory that it had been Dave running naked down the street. What about the other missing persons that have been trying to decipher the meme? There is no information about most of them. Perhaps this is due to the fact that 4chan values privacy, and they could be using VPNs for extra privacy. The total number of confirmed missing persons is currently at 7, with several more suspected disappearances, as is the nature of the internet. People come and go on a whim, so it is difficult to say if they disappeared or just moved on. One of the missing persons was quite well known on the conspiracy forum, and it caused quite a stir when he went missing. The forum users were able to trace down the friend of a friend of a friend of the guy. He had been living in a bunker in the Australian outback. He's missing, presumed dead. At the end of the day, there are a couple theories out there to explain the disappearance of Dave. A common belief that has manifested within the circle of conspiracy theorists is that a meteor hit Dave's apartment. A parasite or some sort of chemical native to the meteor infected or influenced Dave and attacked his mind, causing him to leave his apartment and wander off into the night. The same parasite had been spread to the neighbors, and that is why they had also mysteriously left the building. The belief is that the parasite could only live for a couple days in Earth's atmosphere, and as such has died out before infecting anyone else. Other missing people have had the same thing happen to them, and that explains the lack of witnesses and answers, according to the theory. There is no theory or even breakdown of the facts provided by the police, and I doubt that they would put a theory out there that cannot be proven. We can only wait for an official statement from them. The logical explanation is that Ulla van Dingen had exaggerated the facts of the person she saw in the street, or perhaps her aged mind had played tricks on her that night. Perhaps what was written in the newspaper was closer to the truth. Dave becomes psychotic and runs out of the street completely naked. Unfortunately, in cases like this, it is rare for the person to be found again, and for that person to return from the psychotic break. At the end of the day, only Dave would know if the meme or challenge was real, or if it had any bearing on the events. Only he would be able to tell you whether those eyes that completed that picture, in the end, led to nirvana or hell. Thank you all for listening. And this is Secrets, Crime, and Paranormal, signing out.